The bus had already started pulling away when she screamed his name, her voice cracking through the rain. He turned just in time to see her stumble, clutching something to her chest, eyes wide with fear and hope tangled together. For a second, everything froze. The street, the bus, the choice he didn't know he was about to make. And before we go any further, if stories like this make you feel something deep inside, welcome to Kindness Tales. Take a moment to subscribe. Tap like if this already has your heart racing, and tell us in the comments what kindness means to you as we step back to see how this moment came to be. It all started in a small Midwestern town where the biggest news traveled slower than the freight trains that cut through. The edge of town, the kind of place where people nodded at each other in grocery, store aisles and high school. Football scores stayed painted on the diner's chalkboard for weeks. Daniel lived there most of his life, long enough to feel both comforted and trapped by it. At 42, he worked maintenance for the county hospital, fixing leaky pipes, broken doors, and anything else that stopped working. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, and steady mattered after what he'd been through. His mornings began before sunrise, coffee brewed strong, radio low, the house quiet, in a way that sometimes felt peaceful and sometimes felt painfully empty. His wife had died 5 years earlier after a sudden illness, the kind that doesn't give you time to adjust your dreams. Since then, the house seemed too big for one person, even though it was modest by anyone else's standards. He kept it clean, kept himself busy, and avoided thinking too far ahead. On his drive to work, Daniel passed the same bus stop every morning. Just a metal bench, a faded sign, and a patch of cracked sidewalk. Most days, a woman sat there with a young girl. The woman looked worn down in a way Daniel recognized, shoulders always tense, eyes scanning the road like she expected trouble to come speeding toward her. The girl couldn't have been more than 7 or 8, usually wrapped in an oversized jacket, swinging her feet and talking nonstop. Daniel never heard what she said, but he noticed her laughter, even through closed car windows. At first, he barely registered them. Everyone had their routines. Everyone was carrying something. But one morning, as winter edged into spring, he saw the woman struggling with a grocery bag that had ripped open. Cans rolling dangerously close to the street. Without really thinking, Daniel pulled over. He jogged back, scooped up the cans, and handed them over. The woman looked startled, then embarrassed, then relieved, all in the space of a few seconds. She thanked him too many times, her voice shaking like she wasn't used to help arriving so easily. From that day on, he noticed them more. Some mornings he waved. Sometimes the girl waved back with both hands, bouncing on her toes like she couldn't contain herself. Once, when rain started falling hard and sudden, Daniel stopped again and offered them his umbrella until the bus came. The woman hesitated, pride warring with practicality, then accepted. She returned it the next day, dry and neatly folded with a shy smile. Over time, small conversations happened. He learned the girl loved drawing animals and wanted to be a veterinarian. He learned they were heading to the city every day because the woman worked cleaning offices at night and the girl stayed with a neighbor during the day until school started again. He didn't ask why they didn't have a car. He didn't ask why they always seemed tired. Some questions felt invasive. Kindness didn't need an interrogation. Daniel's co-workers noticed his mood lifting. He smiled more. He lingered at the bus stop a few minutes longer than necessary some mornings, even when he was running late. It surprised him how much those brief exchanges mattered. After years of keeping his world small to avoid pain, these tiny connections felt like windows opening. One Thursday morning, the woman wasn't there. The bench was empty. The next day, still empty. Daniel told himself it was nothing. Schedules changed. Lives moved on. Yet a knot formed in his chest that he couldn't explain. On the 3rd day, he finally saw them again. The woman looked worse than before. Dark circles under her eyes, hands trembling slightly as she held the girl close. She explained haltingly that the place they were staying had fallen through. They were crashing on a couch for now, farther from town, which meant longer walks to the bus stop. Daniel listened, jaw tight, feeling helpless and angry at the same time. Angry that so much could go wrong for people who were clearly trying so hard. A week later, the girl didn't show up. The woman stood alone, eyes red, staring at the pavement. When Daniel asked, she swallowed hard and said the girl was sick, very sick, and she wasn't sure how they were going to manage. The words came out rushed, like if she slowed down, she might fall apart. Daniel offered a ride to the clinic, breaking his own unspoken rule about getting too involved. The woman hesitated, then nodded. The clinic smelled like disinfectant and old magazines. Daniel waited on a plastic chair while the woman held the girl, whispering reassurance. Watching them, something inside him shifted. This wasn't charity. This wasn't obligation. This was simply seeing another human being hurting and refusing to look away. Over the next few weeks, Daniel helped when he could. Rides, hot meals, a few bags of groceries, left quietly on their doorstep. When the woman finally found a tiny apartment above a closed-down bakery, he never made a big deal out of it. He knew how pride could bruise easily when life already felt like one long defeat. Then came the letter. It arrived on a Tuesday, mixed in with bills and advertisements. Daniel recognized the return address immediately. The hospital. His hands shook as he opened it, heart pounding. Budget cuts, outsourcing. His position would be eliminated in 2 months. He read the words again and again, hoping they'd change. They didn't. That night, the house felt emptier than ever. Panic crept in, followed by anger. He had done everything right. He had stayed loyal. He had kept going. And now this. The next morning, he almost drove straight past the bus stop, lost in his thoughts. But habit pulled him over. The woman noticed his distraction immediately. She asked if he was okay, really okay. Daniel surprised himself by telling her the truth. About the job. About the fear. About not knowing what came next. She listened without interrupting, nodding slowly, her eyes full of understanding. She told him something then, something he hadn't expected. She said that the reason she always thanked him so much wasn't just for the help. It was because he treated them like they mattered, like they weren't invisible. She said that on days when everything felt hopeless, that mattered more than anything else. Life didn't magically fix itself. Daniel sent out applications. He worried about money. Some mornings, the bus stop conversations were the only bright spot he had. Then one morning, the woman wasn't there. Again, the bench was empty. The air felt heavy with the promise of rain. When Daniel finally saw her days later, she was running. The bus was already there, doors closing. The girl was gone. Panic flashed through Daniel as he saw the woman sprinting, clutching an envelope, shouting his name. That was the moment. The scream, the rain, the bus pulling away. Daniel didn't think. He banged on the bus door, yelling for the driver to stop. The driver hesitated, annoyed, then opened the door. The woman reached them, breathless, tears streaming down her face. She pressed the envelope into Daniel's hands, saying she had been trying to catch him for days. Inside was a handwritten note and a folded piece of paper. The note explained that the girl had been accepted into a special school. Program in the city, one with medical support and transportation included. The paper was a referral, a job referral, maintenance supervisor. The woman explained that one of the offices she cleaned belonged to a facilities director who had mentioned an opening. She had told him about Daniel, about how he helped without being asked, about how he showed up every day. The bus driver cleared his throat impatiently, but Daniel couldn't move. His vision blurred as the weight of it all crashed over him. He looked at the woman, at the relief and fear and hope on her face, and realized how close they all had come to missing this moment. Months later, Daniel stood in a different bus stop. This one busier, louder, filled with strangers rushing past each other. His new job was demanding, but it paid better, came with benefits, and made him feel useful again in a way he hadn't felt in years. Sometimes on his commute, he thought about that quiet bench back home. The woman and the girl were doing better. They sent pictures, drawings, updates. The girl drew Daniel once, standing by a bus stop with a giant heart on his chest. He kept it on his fridge. Kindness didn't save the world that day. It didn't erase pain or struggle or fear, but it did something just as powerful. It connected lives that might have passed each other by. It reminded people who felt invisible that they were seen. And it proved that even small, ordinary moments can ripple outward in ways we never expect. So if there's someone at your own bus stop, in your grocery line, In your everyday routine, take a moment. Offer the umbrella. Pick up the cans. Listen when someone finally tells the truth about how they're doing. You never know how much that kindness might matter or how far it might travel. And if you have a story like that, we'd love to hear it. Share it in the comments, and let's keep spreading a little more light. One small act at a time.